So friends, we'll be talking about the natural resources of Madhya Pradesh, and mainly we'll focus our talk on forest resources today. The natural resources comprise of so many things: air, water, soil, and other things present in the natural environment or ambience around us, and very much inclusive of human species. Whenever we talk about any ecosystem, we know that human species is a very important component of the natural ecosystem. So we'll be just introducing what are those natural resources, and then we'll switch over to the forest resources of the state. So we have plenty of watersheds, mountain ranges, minerals, rivers, freshwater bodies, agriculture crops, flora and fauna, and the forest resources, major and minor. Watersheds, comprise of the holistic system, the very ecosystem in which all the components are interrelated and interdependent. Well, of course, including the human species, as I told you in the beginning. The mountain ranges have Vindhyan ranges in the north, and making the northern boundary of the state, and southern boundary is marked by Satpura ranges, whereas western boundary is marked by Aravalli ranges to a lot extent, and other smaller mountain hills are found in the state. Then we have the mineral resources, very rich. We are very rich in mineral resources. We have the unusual diamond mines in the state, of course, which is unfortunately found on the boundaries of the very famous Panna Tiger Reserve or the Panna National Park. Most of the mineral resources, the worst part is that are situated under extremely beautiful forest cover, and you can't reach out to these mineral resources without touching or destroying the forest cover over it. So on the one hand, we have to fulfill the requirements of thermal power plants by exploiting coal. We have to use dolomite, we have to use manganese, we have to use well, of course, the um, Tanishq and Jili of Nirav Modi and Tatas and everybody, the diamonds. But we have to weigh how can we best make a balance between the destruction and the cost of procuring these minerals from below the ground, because underground tunneling may not be able to bring out the best of these minerals, and we have to destroy the forest. The forest standing over these minerals have been evolved through centuries and millennia, but we don't take much time to destroy it. Whereas remaking these forests or re-erecting these forests or recreating these forest resources, the very delicate balance within the forest ecosystems is very difficult to do within a span of, say, even 100 years. So although we are trying to do that with the meager support, financial support to plant the species and take it to that level. But of course, the smaller and smaller tidbits of microbial flora and fauna and niche environment built within the ecosystems are very difficult to be regained in such a short time. As I told you, it takes centuries and millennia. So we have the famous rivers meeting the sea, Arabian Sea, which is very uncommon on the map of the country, because most of the northern and southern rivers, they um, pour their water in the Bay of Bengal on the eastern side, whereas Tapti and Narmada, which are parallel rivers on the southern region of the state, are emanating from the state itself and meeting the Arabian Sea in the west. Very unusual thing. And these rivers, well, Narmada comes out in Amarkantak, which is part of Anuppur district on the eastern boundary of the state, boundary with sharing with Chhattisgarh state. And this Tapti, which emanates from Multai region in the district of Betul on the southern side, they run parallel and have many dams made on it. There are freshwater bodies, lakes. If you have been to Bhopal, you might have come across the beautiful landscape um, with lakes, scattered lakes in the district. But almost every district has a beautiful lake within its municipal boundaries, which adds to the charm of the city in the state. Most of the cities have it. Although we have to contain the pressure of human beings to litter these lakes because they are on municipal lands, and where the weakness to litter the natural resources compels us to look at a very polluted banks of these lakes. But then the system and the government and the conscience, which is picking up gradually to go towards cleanliness, and thanks to perhaps this problem of COVID, that people have learned hygiene at least to some extent. And I'm sure in times to come it will be taken care of by their consciousness growing in themselves. The agriculture crops, we are next to Punjab in the wheat production. And because of these rivers, the dams built on these rivers, and even in the on the northern bank, northern side of the state, the Bansagar Dam and all, they have provided a wonderful network of canals, irrigation canals, because of which we are able to take 3 crops a year and good cropping system. We are the largest producers of pulses in the country. Maximum amount of soybean is produced by Madhya Pradesh. So we are ahead of many things because of the rivers and dams and the network of irrigation links developed during last 15-20 years. Then we have the unique flora and fauna. If you know about Pachmadi, you know the very ecosystem there has the unique combination of vegetation and fauna grown on the Himalayas and on the Western Ghats. And this is one meeting point where where the north and the south meets, and it's working as a rich evolving bowl of flora and fauna where evolution is constantly taking place to give rise to new species and new varieties. Then we have the forest resources, major and minor, about which we'll be talking ahead. This is the map from Envis Center of MP government, which you can access on the net, and you can find for yourself that the districts where you are posted, which are rich in which mineral, and we have the bauxite, rock phosphate, dolomite, then these sand, and you see the sand distribution of sand is all along this 2 rivers, the Narmada and Tapti, and in the northern side, Chambal, which also emanates from Madhya Pradesh, from a place called Jana Pavakuti, which is the holy place of birth of Lord Parashuram in the from the mythological times. 5 major rivers emanate from this place and go to the Yamuna river basin. And this Chambal region is also replete with sand, and often you have heard about or read about reporting on infamous Chambal sand mafia and sand exploitation, although this is also a very unique ecosystem for Gangetic dolphin and the crocodiles, the mugger species, and a lot many migratory birds come from Arctic and Antarctic, and then they rest here and nest here. during the precious season from November to February, the 4 months of winter. And it's a site worth seeing apart from the black history of the region because of some infamous reasons. So we have these resources map which you can access. This is a very simple forest ecosystem in which we have the form, factor, and function. These are the forms you're saying for any small ecosystem, about which we'll be talking about. We can have a glimpse of the country's forest resources or forest types. So this will be at the back of your mind that what you have seen in the country with different contrasting colors will remain engraved, I think, forever. The work of forest types of India was first done by Champion in H.G. Champion in 1935, and then it was revised in 1968 with Mr. S.K. Seth, and this monumental work was done in Forest Research Institute of Dehradun. The magnificent campus you might have come across by getting down from Vasuri or Lavasna and then coming to this Dehradun to take the train or flight. So this monumental work is still to be re-evolved, which is not yet. You can see the distribution of colors through 1 to 16 groups. They are called major groups. And these groups are basically classified for a combination of temperature and moisture. So starting from tropical wet evergreen, that means summer. Tropical is hot and wet. Hot and wet means hottest and wettest. Evergreen is hottest and wettest. So you can see the light blue color in the northeast and in the western Ghats. The beautiful rainforest under which if you stand you will have the spray of water on your cheeks. So that's why it's called the rainforest, because the humidity is 90 to 99% under these canopies. And for the whole day, you don't find a pinch of sunlight coming to the ground of these forests. So they are the good rainforests of the country, which are unique resources found in the country and are respected, revered, and worshipped, I must say. So far, so good. So these forests belong to the hottest and wettest evergreen kind of flora. The kind of trees found here are very unique, big, huge ones, more than 30 meters and above. And that's the best quality, supporting a lot of rich fauna, the animal species from microbial to the mega and large species like elephant and rhinos. We have plenty here. Then we come to the second group of tropical semi-evergreen, which are just reddish to give the contrast through Goa, Maharashtra, Western Ghats, and part is here in on Odisha and Northeast. So they are a bit less wet but tropical, of course, where the temperature reaches up to 50 degrees and moisture also from 80 to 95% moisture is found. So they are evergreen. Evergreen forest means they don't shed the leaves, because in Madhya Pradesh, most of the time in this Anagessus pendula on the western border like Shivpuri and Gwalior and Shivpur, etc., have these Anagessus pendula forests, which are also denuded during the leaf shedding period from February to May, and only in the June with the first showers of monsoon, the leaves come back and you find the beautiful forests existing there. Similarly, the teak forest of the central Madhya Pradesh, the southern and central Madhya Pradesh, which produce the best teak of the world, and it is rated as one of the costliest species. About 1 cubic meter of it is worth 1 lakh rupees. So when I started my career in the state in way back in 1984, it was 3,000 per CMT, which has shot to 1 lakh per CMT because of the scarcity as well as high demand. So both these vectors have made the rich species, teak species, the slow growing teak, very, very dear to the market. Then we have the third kind, the tropical moist deciduous. Now from evergreen, which are bearing leaf all through the year, we come to the deciduous, which are shedding leaf during these 4 months as I introduced it. So the third one is moist deciduous, which is again shedding leaves partly, and since it is moist, less than semi evergreen, so moist deciduous forest, the green part. Okay, this green part is the third classification which enters Madhya Pradesh. So far, we didn't have the rainforest or semi evergreen here, but we have the tropical moist deciduous forest part of the state. The third major group. The fourth is littoral and swamp forest, which you find in very scantily distributed along the eastern coast and part of it in the western coast. So these are very specific kind of forests which have pneumatophores, the breathing roots coming out on the sand along the beaches, which you find in very typical species of rhizophora and all that, which have the capacity to grow in saline water, the salt water of the sea. Then you come to the fifth and the largest group, that is tropical dry deciduous, very dry deciduous, shedding leaves, and dry forests, which is common, the blue kind, making about some 55 to 60% of the country's forest area. So this tropical dry deciduous forest, the fifth major group, is making most of the forest area in the country. Then the sixth one you have the tropical thorn forest, which is very typical of Gujarat and Rajasthan, Aravallis, and entering into part of Madhya Pradesh also, the sixth group, and the Deccan Plateau, the Maharashtra, Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, and part of Karnataka, the Kolar and other regions in Karnataka, which have the typical thorn forest. That means the species have evolved the conservation of water to its maximum capacity by producing thorns, and leaves are cuticle coated so that the evaporation is contained by these vegetation. Then we have very small amount of 7, 8, 9, 10, climbing the mountains and going up to Himalayan moist temperate forests and then dry temperate forests. Then we come to the tree line, which you might have come across during your trekking tour. Might have seen the tree line above which no trees are available. So if you cross Chidabasa, then you have to go to Tapovan, and there you don't get any forests or any trees other than Bhuj, Patra, and Betula, the Betula species. And then you come across the prairies kind of subalpine and alpine forest. It is classified as forest, but these are grasslands where you can see just temperate grasses growing there, which disappear with the onset of snowfall and other extremities of winter. So that's that about the forest types of India. Just at the back of your mind, it will help you remember and correlate things. Then there is an organization called Forest Survey of India in Dehradun. Might have visited it or might have heard about it. Every 2 years, they take the snaps from the satellites revolving around the Earth, and these satellites are updated up to the extent of 1 meter, to the resolution of 1 meter on the ground. So one can see from these pictures and interpret it as forest cover or tree outside forest cover. So this is the kind of report. India's State of Forest Report, ISFR, every 2 years. It's biennial, and every 2 years it is published. We have yet to receive the 21 edition, 2021 edition. It comes somewhere in December or maybe January 22, who knows, because of the restraints this year we all are facing. So they give a total idea of the growing stock, district by district and state by state, and for the whole nation as such. Now you can see here that there is a belt. It's called Kandi in the 5 states of northern India: Jammu and Kashmir, Punjab, Haryana, Himachal Pradesh, and then we have this Uttarakhand. Okay, so this is Aravalli forest. So this Aravalli belt of Aravalis, Aravalli. This is Shivalik belt, and this is to the extent of a belt-like formation. It provides the forest cover in the northern area. Then you have the good temperate forest in Jammu and Kashmir also, but most of the upper part of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh, of course, Ladakh. It's all prairies, most of it. But in Ladakh, DRDO has grown beautiful river and stream side tree line, which one can see for him or herself. If you visit Ladakh, I think most of you would have gone from Labasna on tour to this beautiful part of the country where DRDO's monumental work has brought good crops, vegetables, and grains, as well as tree crops growing along the streams and rivers flowing through Ladakh region. So they are very specific of that kind, enduring that kind of climate, and they are able to endure the extremities of cold there, but provide a good tree line, soothing to the eyes. Then we have this Sikkim and the Chicken Neck and the northeast Arunachal Pradesh and Meghalaya, which have the beautiful forests there, good forest cover, the green area. Then you have the Western Ghats here and the central Indian forested states of Telangana, Chhattisgarh, Odisha, Jharkhand, and Madhya Pradesh, part of Maharashtra, the Gadchiroli and all. But most of the part, this area is replete with the left-wing extremism, which has been washed out from Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, but it is still to be cured in other parts where it has become a nuisance. So this is the kind of forest cover you find. We can correlate it with our state's forest cover, but before that, let's have a glance at the agroclimatic zones in Madhya Pradesh. Well, India has about 127 agroclimatic zones, out of which 11 are spread all over the state. Our state has 11 agroclimatic zones. This means which kind of place with its specific soil qualities will grow which kind of crop, because all the crops cannot be grown on all the soils. As you know very well, the black cotton soil of Malwa and Nimad is very beautifully supporting the crop of cotton, whereas the central Narmada Valley, the Narmada catchment area, is very good for growing wheat and other crops. And similarly, on the western side, Mandsaur, Neemuch, all these districts have other kind of crops. So we have these agroclimatic zones 11, according to which the forest nurseries are also available to supply plants to specific to these agroclimatic zones, so that we can be very much overlapping with that kind of cropping pattern in forest. Because as you know, as I told you, the forest types are very different in each part, like western part, this Girds region, the Gwalior, Shivpuri, Shiopur, Bhind, Morena are very different from Bundelkhand region of Datia, Tikamgarh, Chhatarpur, Sagar, Panna, the 7 district of Bundelkhand region, then the Kaimur Plateau, Satpura Hills. They are prevalent in giving this semi-evergreen deciduous, semi-evergreen forest part of it. The type 3 major group 3 Sal forest in the CD, Rewa, Satna, Singrauli, those districts. And then coming to Balaghat, which is having the mixed forest. Then Sivni, Chinmara, Betul, Hoshangabad, these are the teak areas prevailing there, Raisen and all. So let us have the forest cover of the state. Now, there are 3 pockets which are extremely green, starting from Shivpur. This Shivpur is seat to receiving the last population of Gir lions from Shasan-Gir in Gujarat, state of Gujarat. There are 4 contempts of Supreme Court order already on the state of Gujarat for not supplying the Gir lions. The reason being that the Shasan-Gir area is detrimental for the survival of Gir lion population because inbreeding and the number of the geometric increase in the population has grown into inbreeding and the population is almost limping. There are no more those bubble shades which are signifying the lion, the king of the jungle in Shasan-Gir, and therefore with the consent of the major research organization, the Wildlife Institute of India, and its worthy scientists and Madhya Pradesh government and central government together came down to prepare this area, enabling this area to receive the lions from Shasan-Gir. In 1997, 26 villages were shifted, relocated from this area to other areas and were nicely settled. We gave them land, we gave them houses built, colonies built, and all the basic amenities like water supply, health, and education facilities for their children. Who doesn't want? Everybody wants rather than living with a lion in the vicinity and living in a very primitive way without electricity or without water supply. So they wanted to go out and we could rehabilitate, relocate them in 1997. It was a very successful project, worldwide appreciated. But since 1997, even after preparing a red carpet welcome ground for the Gir lions to come and inhabit this area, we could not get them. And, for the reasons best known to the lion of Gujarat, we are not able to get them on board. But the forests are ready. If any one of you get a chance to visit Kuno Palpur area, then which is a sanctuary now, Abhi sanctuary here. So please visit and see for yourself how beautiful it has been organized, and the herbivores are there available as prey material for the predator lion. But let's see what happens next. Now the other northeastern part of the state is extreme is the Singrauli and part of CD district, which are very rich in sal forests, under which lots of coal is deposited. And coal is wanted by investors from private to public sector. They have come to the tune of investing more than 50,000 crores in the area by establishing power plants, Reliance, then Shasan, then our NTPC, JP, all the players are there, but at the cost of forest. So this green area may not be so green in the next forest cover. Let's see. Then is the third area, the Balaghat district, as you know, bordering on Chhattisgarh and part of Maharashtra, meeting Gondia district of Maharashtra. This is the seat for a very wonderful mixed deciduous forest. And these mixed forests where species are different within 1 meter on the ground, you find the different species, not monocultures like sal or teak, but mixed forests where number of species and very important herbaceous species for providing medicinal products of medicinal value are obtained there. A very unique kind of forest areas. If you stand on the Beach National Park Highway number 7, National Highway number 7, the number might have changed now, of course. If you stand on there on the viewpoints, you can see the beautiful forest of Balaghat across the Sivni district and gives you a beautiful sight. But unfortunately, something not so beautiful is happening there from last 30 years. It's not a recent development, but left-wing extremism is quite progressive there, I must say, to the misfortune of the state and the forest area. And then you have the green belt of this teak forest, the beautiful teak forests of Hoshangabad, Betul, and Chinwada and Sivni, the Rudyard Kipling's area of Mowgli. You go to these forests and you find the Mowgli poems very well, text of Mowgli book very well, set in the natural surroundings and settings of these forests. Well, let's have a glimpse on this. We have major group 3 of tropical dry deciduous forest, 89% in the state. Most of it is teak forest. Then tropical moist deciduous forest subgroup, major group 5 is 9%. That is towards Mandla and Sidi, Singrauli, Anuppur, Shahdol. And then we have the tropical thorn forest, and that is just 0.3% on the western Aravalli boundaries, mountain ranges, western part of the state. Then type 8 is subtropical broadleaf hill forest, part of it, very small part on the boundaries of Tamia and Belawadi, part of Chinwada district, and Pachmadi, part of Hoshangabad district. So this is the major occupancy of these major groups of forests, champion and state wise classified here. The growing stock of the forest is the capacity on the ground for million cubic meters. So we have the growing stock of forests for according to India State of Forest Report 19. We have the total 4,273 million cubic meter, which is 72% of forest, and tree outside forest is only 1642 million cubic meter, that is 28%. So this is the growing stock which you can say you have the biomass there, and which is your bank account of carbon in the state and the country. So likewise. There is another classification, 3 classifications I told you, apprised you about the forest types of India according to that. Then very dense forests, density wise. What is the density? That is, if you stand under the canopy in full leaf season, not in denuded or deciduous period, where there are the leaves have shed already on the ground, and you find a golden ground on the soil before monsoons. Once monsoons set in, the decomposition process starts and the carbon is returned back to the soil along with rich minerals. So before that, it is called a golden forest floor. So very dense forest is when you stand on the forest floor under the canopy in the month of July, August or September, up to September at least, you can expect that 70% of the canopy over your head is covered. So only 30% is open to sky. So that is called 70% density. Otherwise, density in actual terms is measured according to the cover at breast height, that is 1.37 meter above the ground. It is taken because it excludes the tapering of the tree and which is on the ground. You see the taper on the ground which is covering more area. So you have a standard diameter at breast height at 1.37 meter, and how much it is covering is the density. So very dense forest is 70% cover, then dense forest is 40 to 70%. This is according to the Food and Agriculture Organization's forestry sector interpretation given to global understanding and uniform classification. Then you have the open forest 10 to 40%, and then scrubs which are less than 10%. So as I told you about the Himalayan scrub forest or Himalayan grasslands, that is less than 10% of the cover. So this is the India State of Forest report about the growing stock in million cubic meter for all the 36 units which are administered by Forest Department, out of which uh, 29 states, 30 states are there, 30 states are there, and the rest are union territories. Well, of course, we had the addition in to 2020. In the month of August, we had the addition of this Ladakh as another unit, but it is still to be covered. So you have the total growing stock here, which you can very well see, 4,273, the growing stock of the country. So let's come back to home. We have drifted far wide. The vision of forest management all over the world is sustainable forest management. So ours is in Madhya Pradesh. We mind it about Madhya Pradesh, although it has global impact in terms of climate change and the supply of beautiful teak panel, veneers, etc., all over the globe. But still, we talk about the sustainable forest management in the state. Our mission is management of forest resources through strong institutional infrastructure for conservation and ecological security in order to meet the needs of present and future generations. Well, friends, I must tell you, ये कहानी है दिए की और तूफान की. एक दिया है जो जलता ही रहता है और एक तूफान है जो उसे बुझाना चाहता है. Forest existence is actually in this phrase very well explained, that there are so many winds trying to blow off the small lamp which is struggling to survive. Okay, you know what I mean. And we don't do anything to take awards or anything to show results in a period of 5 years, in a period of 10 years, or even in a period of 50 years. We sow today, which will be harvested after 100 years. The teak seed, which we are planting in teak plantations today, will be harvested somewhere in 2130. So, after 110 years, the majority of this tree will be over and it will be available for felling and selling. So, we are harvesting right now what our predecessors have planted, say 100 years back, somewhere in 1920s, they have planted and we are harvesting. So, according to the sustainable development, we have the silviculturally available material every rotation of the crop. As we have the maize crop for 3 months, we have the rice crop for 3 months, we have the wheat crop for 4 months. Similarly, we have the tree crops for 110 years. So the harvesting time takes so much that we don't want to imagine what will be it like. And we are planting for future generations because every 25 years the generation changes. One generation is estimated as some 25 years. So there will be 4 generations after which this seed will be mature enough to be harvested into a big teak market. I don't know what will be the price, the extrapolation of prices of teak at that time, but still we do things for future generations. Well, we are producing oxygen and water, the two major products which are unestimated in monetary terms. You know the importance of oxygen today. We had always had this WhatsApp university messages roaming around on social media, Twitter, and all. What are those five best species to be put indoors to produce oxygen? Apart from prone position and oxygenators or oxygen plants, we have to have more and more forest area, more and more forest cover on our soil so that every inch is able to produce oxygen. So, in a span of 60 years, the tons and tons of oxygen released by a tree, a normal tree, and its canopy is wonderful and more than any other oxygen plant. Anyway, I'm not going to compare it with the oxygen plants because they are the necessity of the hour. But at least at this time, we are compelled to think how we have destroyed our oxygen plants and are now planting those steel plants, steel structures, concrete and steel structures to produce oxygen instead of plants. Now, the very prologue on which our thesis is built for sustainable development are the mountain ranges of Vindhya, Satpuras, Mekal and Aravalli. Mekal on the eastern side, Aravalli is on the western side. Vindhya is north and Satpura south. Luckily, we have these natural features to make boundaries or make our state in four clear regions. The terrain is blessed with a fine network of rivers like Chambal, Mahi, Narmada, Tapi, Betwa, Kane, and Son. Unique watershed offers cozy home for tiger, gaur, panther, and vultures, besides many other avian, aquatic, and terrestrial large and small species. Nobody cares about the small species, so we try to stretch the imagination or the vision of our tourists roaming in the forest area through ecotourism to go for non-tiger tourism, but there is very less likely marketing of non-tiger tourism in the state. Anyway, now this forest department, the mega institution, the country's biggest forest department, being run on country's number two state in terms of area. Rajasthan is the first state and we are number two in terms of area, whereas undivided Madhya Pradesh was number one in both forest and ground area of the country. So now we are countries, Madhya Pradesh is country's largest forest area, housing state. 12% of the forest in the country is housed by Madhya Pradesh. So that's great in terms of area. That's still great. The notified forest area in the state is 12% of the country's total forest area. 23% of the country's area is geographical areas, total area of the for under the forest, notified under the forest, whereas Madhya Pradesh is number one, having 12% of that 23% in India. So we have a big forest department established somewhere in 1861, and you have the Bison Lodge in Pachmadi. The township of Pachmadi houses a Bison Lodge where James Forsyth has started forest department. It was the best forest area. They came on horseback, and there is a 19-kilometer stretch of Forsyth Trail from Pachmadi to Jirpa area of Chinwada district, where one can go and trek around and see for oneself how the beautiful species of Pachmadi area along River Denwa have evolved and retained its identity all through the time. So it was established in 1861. Then State Forest Research Institute, which is situated in housed in Jabalpur district, is 1963. the Forest Research Institute, which was opened by Britishers in 1914 in Dehradun, the magnificent campus second to none worldwide. You might have seen, thought that every state should have its own unit research institute. So all the states opened around the same period of 1961 to 65 their state forest research institutes, and ours is a big campus in Polipathar region of Jabalpur district. Then the industrial wood was in demand for an independent India, and we found that the teak and the sal, the major species of the country, and cheer and devdar, they are oaks also. They are taking a lot of time to grow, and industries can't wait for this turnover, the huge turnover after so many years. So we had to produce quick growing species for which state forest development corporations were opened all over the country in all the states to grow the economically desirable species on a fast growing term way back in 1975 in Madhya Pradesh, housed in Panchanan Bhavan of Bhopal. Then you have the Minor Forest Produce Federation opened in 1984. Basically, it was to support the leaf which had the potential to change the chief minister in this state. Undivided MP was the largest producer of Tendupata leaf, that beedi leaf, the one which takes away the lungs of the poor. But at the same time, it provides a great labor cost. Collection of leaf provides great labor cost to the to the poor people residing in and around the forest area. They go in the morning, pluck the leaves through end of April up to end of May. It's a 1 month operation, and pack it in the bunches of 50 leaves in a small pack, tied with a grass or a rope, and then sold in the evening at places called fairs, which provide them the um, wages according to the number of stacks submitted by them. So it is measured as standard bag, and each goodie of 50 they do leave weighs something, and it is paid to the labor through their bank account. Instant remittance is there. So now it has become online. But in 84, it was found that earlier it was given to contractors to exploit this business from the forest area, and units were sold by the government that the contractor will deposit this much to the government and take away the rest. So there was no assurance to the labor how much they will be paid for for selling one standard bag of 1,000 such 50 leaf gaddies to the contractor, and there was no way to ensure whatever the monitoring was. So in 1985, through this network of MFP Federation, its head office is situated in 74 Bungalows area of Bhopal. So they decided that it will be a state-run business, and they started collecting the leaves on firs, the state government, and it's the forest guards of the state forest department, and they would pay the wages according to the number of gaddies deposited by each collector of the Tendu leaf. At the same time, on the fund itself in cash at the rate decided by the state government. So there was very little flexibility in cheating the labor, the poor, especially the tribe, which are most of the tribal people, which are bringing those leaves to the selling point, and then it was regulated. Later on, the unit then it would be go down somewhere in the first week of June before the monsoon sets in, because if the showers are there on the dried leaves, it just spoils. And divided Madhya Pradesh is still the highest producer of the Tendu leaf, although its factories are mostly situated in the southern part of the country. Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Karnataka, the BD manufacturers, but some are there in Madhya Pradesh also on a very small scale. But still, we are the largest producer of the raw material of BD. So, this MFP Federation also serves in other areas like enhancing the economic setup in those villages which are producing these, collecting and supplying these BD leaves, and then for their general welfare, for their social welfare, and enhancing the regrowth of red species, rare, endangered, and threatened species on the forest area. So this is done by the grants of MFP Federation. It is run by forest officers, mostly under the cooperative department, but all of its this benefit, which is accrued from the sale of BD leaves, this minus the labor cost, all of it, 100% of this benefit is pumped back to the upliftment of these collectors and their villages. Nothing is given to state exchequer. Whereas the MFP, this SFDC, State Forest Development Corporation, gives to the exchequer the lease rent. They take the land from lease, land on lease from Forest Department, raise plantation, harvest it, sell it, and then repay the lease rent to the Forest Department. So that way they are paying lease rent to the exchequer as revenue, of course. Then there is State Biodiversity Board 2004, whereas the um, Madhya Pradesh state is first in opening its, constituting its State Biodiversity Board. Later on, other states followed our mandate and copied our board's mission and vision and the structure. You have the BMCs, Biodiversity Management Committees, under the chairpersonship of collector of the district, and they work for the ownership and selling of or permitting exploitation of specific species. They keep the royalty to themselves and develop their forest area with this royalty. Then well, forest areas are beautiful and replete with natural resources, combination of water, air, and forests, and the sky, and everything around, the moving or unmoving, the flora and the fauna, the wonderful fauna, the tiger. So we constituted a ecotourism development board, the first in the country again. Everything was first, and we are the first. Well, to be proud of. So we opened this, constituted this ecotourism development board way back in 2005, and identified more than 50 beautiful spots where one can be taken as tourists and given a glimpse of what natural attraction is there. It also served as a good environment and conservation education tool for youngsters, for elders or grown-up people, to bring awareness about the conservation. The main aim behind ecotourism is to bring about the conservation. And also, the people living in and around forest area, when they used to find us moving in the forest, they used to think what is so good there that people are coming and enjoying. So we made them a part of this project and opened up livelihood facilities like tourist guides, jeep drivers, the caretakers, the caterers, or the small entrepreneurs, in the sense that they used to give chai pakoda kind of thing, because staying is impossible due to one of the major constraint that we can't build anything in the forest. Ecotourism is supposed to be a non-forestry activity. So according to the Forest Conservation Act of 1980, which has a good, beautiful history, at the time permits I'll share with you, but this is not possible to open up amenities, the tourist amenities at all the spots, because of the law that we can't break the ground. So we have the temporary things which can be shifted for tourists and taken care of. The guides, especially the guides, who can tell about the historical value, the biological value of flora and fauna growing there, or explain the natural resources found there, about the stories about the river or the mountain there, the rock paintings there. Most of the areas are replete with rock paintings, small, apart from Bhimbetka, of course, which is the major beam size of rock painting. We have small rock paintings all over the place, the Vindhyans, the Satpura area, everywhere. So this is a big kind of show, the outlet to enjoy without destructing or without spoiling the area. The conservation, with conservation aptitude, the ecotourism is developing in the state. Many of the states copied our bylaws and the constitutional framework, and they started opening. The latest institution, the seventh institution in the forest department, is Madhya Pradesh Bamboo Mission. This bamboo mission was prevailing way back in 2010, 2007. From Government of India, we used to get grants from the Agriculture Ministry, and later on states started opening, because Agriculture Ministry would also give bamboo mission money to grants to forest department to implement on the ground and take it to the areas outside, to farmers, to tree growers, or to people with agriculture fields, to make boundaries and grow bamboo, because as you know, bamboo has many manifestations of its existence. From cradle to grave, it is used as support. So we found n number of uses for this, and economic upliftment of the people growing it. So we started uh, distributing them rhizomes, the stock, the planting stock, so that they can have the bamboo of their own. The best part is that its maturity takes just 4 years from the day of sowing it. The rhizomes are sowed. It's like ginger rhizome. So stem part, it is sown, and within 4 years it matures and it can be harvested. So it's a short rotation crop which can give immediate monetary benefits to the grower. So we started advertising and distributing to people in the agriculture area also. So we have our independent bamboo mission, which is an autonomous institution, fully supported and fully funded and supported by government way back in 2013. It is innovating. It is trying to expand itself through the marketing and medium of operation of its crop, so that people can get better returns of it. So these are the 7 institutions through which we are working. Well, these are some of the statistics. About 35,000 personnel are manning the, I must say, human resources. 35,000 human resources are active in the forest department. It earns about 1,000 crores to the state exchequer annually. This figure is not increasing because, you know, as soon as the timber rates are increasing by states selling the timber, and the amount of timber sold is receding, it's shrinking very fast. So, no more it is available silviculture for harvest. It takes time to grow, and we are still in the process of growing. Countless visibly invisible goods and services. The contribution in GDP is very small, but it doesn't take into account the vast factories of forests which are producing water and oxygen, and things like soil conservation, binding the soil, giving nutrients in watersheds to agriculture crops. Whenever the rains come from a mountain, taking all the rocks and minerals along with it and enrich the fields under the slopes, in the catchment of the slopes of watershed, it naturally enriches and fertilizes the ground, the soil from which the beautiful crops are coming out. But it is invisible and unaccounted for. People have tried, economists have tried to calculate it, but the computations are still not up to the satisfaction of the system. Well, it's taking time, but I'm sure it is going to be a good mathematical model coming out in near future. Forest products are very useful for livelihood of around 70% of state's population. Major things, the forestry works all around the year, and apart from Tenupata collection and state timber harvest, we have many other things. Apart from that, it provide the ecosystem provide provisioning, regulating, supporting, and cultural services. These ecosystem services have taken off in the last decade when the SDGs, where Sustainable Development Goals, were highlighted, and the issue of climate change came into being. So, Bali Action Plan of Climate Change was the first time when the forests were accounted for. Before that, the climate change conference of parties never took into account the forest areas. So the Bali Action Plan way back in Indonesia, when it was organized, then it took into account the role of forests for the first time. Otherwise, the climate change was something, and the forest resource growing was the other thing. Let's talk about the structure of the organization. We have the major heads or PCC, Principal Chief Conservator of Forest. You know, the Conservator of Forest is a designation in all the ranks and files of the forest working. I'll just share with you in the next slide. So, Principal Chief Conservator of Forest and Head of Forestry Force is the one at the top, the senior most. Well, in MP, even if one is there for 1 month duration after the retirement of his predecessor and till the day of retirement of his own, even for 1 month he is chairing this seat of PCCF and so far. No rules have been broken till now, touch wood. And in other states you will find it's all going left and right. Whoever has the maximum pull and push, they can become a PCCF and HOF major over their seniors manning these posts. Okay, now then we have the PCCF working plan. This one is the scale of Chief Secretary, that is the max scale, and these are in the next scale. They are not the same scale. As you have 12 Chief Secretaries rank in the state, all of them are having the max salaried scale, whereas our PCCFs, there are 10, 5 cadre and 5 non-cadre. Out of 10, only one is having that maximum scale and the rest are having the next scale given to them. So development and Campa is one thing. Then PCCF Wildlife, which is also called the Chief Wildlife Warden. Then production, research extension, human resource development and training. Then MD of these are ex-cadre, of course. MD of MFP Federation, Minor Forest Produce Federation, and Forest Development Corporation. And there's one member NVDA, because as you know, all the dams are built on forest land. So felling of forest, diversion of forest land, felling of forest resources, clearing it, and giving sanctions and all, one needed. So there is one post of Principal Chief Conservator of Forest as member of NVDA. Now this is the hierarchy of Forest Department. 1 PCCF and HOF, 9 PCCF, then additional Principal Chief Conservator of Forest, 50, that is 25 cadre and 25 non-cadre. Then Chief Conservator of Forest, 30 plus 30, they are 60. And then Conservator of Forest, 70. Then Deputy Conservator of Forest. This is the rank where UPSC recruits Indian Forest Service officers against these posts. So 100 of these, that is 50 cadre, 50 non-cadre. We have 52 districts, so many districts have those posts. Not only 52, but we have 64 forest divisions against 52 districts. So I'll tell you why. But then These are DFOs, called DFOs, who are recruited from UPSC. And then you have Assistant Conservator of Forest. They are SDO rank people recruited by state PSCs and directly by state PSCs, and they are 452. Then in state PSC list, next to Assistant Conservator of Forest, the people who rank up for Range Officer cadre are 1194. In between, this is associated services. We have in national parks and all veterinary doctors who take care of the operations, the wounds, the welfare, and general health related issues. So, vet doctors are posted in our national parks and tiger reserves. So, they are 44 associated service people. Then, range officers, who are the um, people in charge of ranges, are about 1194. Then deputy range officers, they are 1258. Forester rank 4194. Forest guards are the one who are recruited directly. People in forest guard are also recruited by the they are also recruited by the state PSCs, whereas range officers. Now, deputy foresters and deputy range officers are recruited by promotion of forest guards. There is no direct recruitment in these cadres. Then we have the ministerial staff, the babus, who are running our papers and who are doing all our office job. They are 4688. Then there are watchers, the support staff to forest guards and range officers, and to all ranks are daily wages. Daily wages called watchers. So they are 7500 in the state. This is branching out of a beautiful tree covered with lichens and moss, and we are somewhat like that. The 20 branches of MP Forest Department. I shared with you the first organization, the largest one, the MP Forest Department. This is having 20 such branches within its headquarters. Most of these branches are situated, placed in Satpura Bhavan of Madhya Pradesh on Arera Hills, and they have very different division of labor, like development deals with the forestry works, then working plan, then protection, wildlife, then joint forest management, then Lok Waniki, production, budget, projects, coordination, then human resource development, World Food Program, IT, gusted and non-gusted administration, land management, forest land records, vigilance and complaints, community forest management, then forest manual policy development. So these 20 wings are doing different works of hands, limbs, legs, eyes, and ears, you can say. The administrative units of territorial forest circles are manned by Chief Conservator of Forest. There are 16, the territorial forest circles. So 16 in 52 circles and 52 districts. Some of the circles are exclusive with only one district, like Betul, Chinwada, Balaghat. They are just one circle in itself, and they have more than 10 DFOs under them working for different functions of the district. So, because of the extent and area of forest to be managed in these districts, they are circles in one district. Then you have the research and extension units, like 11 agroclimatic zones we shared. So 11 agroclimatic zones have 11 different research extension units. Their job, the job of territorial forest circle is to protect and develop the circle. But the job of research and extension units is to produce planting material, that is saplings for plantation, and provide it to territorial circles. Then about working plan units, we have 16 co-terminus with the 16 territorial forest circles. And these working plan units take the arduous job of revising the working plan every 10th year for a division, for a forest division, which are 64 in number. So their basic job is to revise and revisit the working plan, which was written 10 years back and approved by the competent authority in Government of India. This came to be the controlling unit. How do they do it? They take the previous working plan, visit the areas, look at the crop, do the stock mapping on the ground, very extensive work over a period of 2.5 years. First, they write the first preliminary report in 6 months or so and present the plan of future strategy of constituting, revising the working plan to an elite member of headquarter, a group of headquarter officers who scan and weigh the seriousness in the text presented by these working plan officers and suggest changes or moderations or strategies to revise their working plan. So this is a very serious kind of job, and a working plan is taken as Gita and Ramayana for working in the forest division. No deviation from the working plan in terms of execution of forestry operations on the ground of forests in that division is allowed until and unless proper modification or deviation is approved by the competent authority, that is Government of India. As you know, the forests were listed in the concurrent list in 42nd Amendment in 1977 by the Government of India. Constitutional amendment said that forests are no more a state subject. Earlier it was a state subject. They came to concurrent list, and the final authority to approve anything or take a decision in terms of forest area diversion or land use is the Government of India. So that kind of transition came in 1977. Then there are 64 divisions in 52 districts. Then subdivisions are 135, manned by SDO Forest. Territorial ranges are 473, manned by range officers, forest range officers. Sub-ranges or circles are 1871, and forest beats manned by forest guards. This is the smallest unit, constituting about 10 to 12 square kilometer of area under one beat, in charge of a forest guard. So this is the basic working unit at the ground level. You can say the frontline management staff is there. There are 11 training schools in each of the zone of the state where forest guards are trained. Apart from forest guard training, we also have facilities in these training schools to train foresters and deputy rangers who are promoted and sent to these schools for further training. Then there are 11 national parks in the state, out of which there are 6 tiger reserves. The 7th one, the Ratapani Sanctuary, is yet to be notified. The proposal is pending before the central government, before the state government, and final approval will be by central government, where the tiger reserves and the national parks and sanctuaries together, this 11 plus 25, 36, they are called protected areas, and they are sanctum sanctorum of very rich flora and fauna, each representing its own area in terms of if it is a thorn forest, or if it is a forest of semi-evergreen, semi-deciduous forest of sal, or it is a teak forest of Page Tiger Reserve, Panna National Park, Panna Tiger Reserve. So the 6 tiger reserves starting from Sanjay in the Sanjay Tiger Reserve in the district of CD. We have Panna Tiger Reserve, then Pench Tiger Reserve, Satpura Tiger Reserve in Pachmadi, Hoshangabad, and then we have this Bandhavgarh Tiger Reserve, Kanha, of course, number 1, the Odis. So these are the 6 tiger reserve where the flagship species is tiger. Then we have 25 sanctuaries, some of which are very rich in flora and fauna and have their own attractions in terms of natural resources and other area of attraction. We have 11 Forest Development Corporation units at district level, then 60 district unions for MFP Federation, then Joint Forest Management Committee. Way back in 1990, Joint Forest Management has geared up to the maximum scale. We have about 95,000 JFM committees in the country, out of which 15,000 are housed in Madhya Pradesh. They are involving the people living in and around the forest area into the protection and development of forests. Then we have Primary Forest Produce Collection Cooperative Society 1071, through which the Tendu leaf collection is operationalized. This is our outreach, creating urban lungs in cities and townships, about which you will be more concerned after the oxygen crisis in the country. And I think we can do this. Rajasthani Pariyojana, our capital project in the district of Bhopal, has done a wonderful job over the last 5 decades. It is praiseworthy and exemplary ideal thing in Bhopal. And likewise, we can develop areas in other districts also, institutions in other districts also. One Mahotsav is celebrated since 1952 when Kanhaiya Lal Munshi, the then Union Agriculture Minister, initiated this, taking the first week of July as a huge mega event, gearing up everybody in districts, right from schools, colleges to other institutions, different departments, to plant more trees on the ground. Then Lokwaniki is a project to facilitate tree growers on their agricultural land. These are some of the major forest acts. Indian Forest Act 1927, then some of the state acts which are very empowering and meaningful. Then second is Wildlife Protection Act. After 1972, when this act came into being by the Union government, all the trophies and skins of animals had to be registered with the local divisional forest officer. If anything found in the custody of anybody after 1972 promulgation of this act, it would be labeled as illegal. Then came the Forest Conservation Act. I'm sorry, I don't have the time to tell you the story. It's a very beautiful story how this act was evolved. But this is very good, empowering act that says that without the central government's permission, no land under forest area can be converted or can be used for any non-forestry purpose. And I told you ecotourism is a non-forestry purpose in the context. Timber Sowing Act, then Environmental Protection, this is Union Government Act, again very empowering. Biological Diversity Act, and the controversial Forest Rights Act, which has fragmented our forest resources, forest areas, because the animals, they don't know how a flying squirrel will decide where the forest is ending and where it has been fragmented for tribal cropland, and then again one has to hop, skipping that area to its own jungle. It's a very, very difficult task for everybody. Thank you very much for listening to me. Hope I will be back again and able to see you by faces. Thanks, really. Bye bye. Have a nice day.